Every time I take damage in a roguelike, I change roguelike. And after the embarrassment, which was taking damage on the first fight of the first game, I'm just hoping that I'll do better or even complete the second game. And this whole thing is because the concept of doing a perfect run in a roguelike is incredibly difficult, and I want to test my skill. But in order to keep myself from having to play 100 or 200 or all the different roguelikes on the market, I am limiting myself to 20 games. Now, on the subject of game 2 being Enter the Gungeon, I haven't played a lot of this game since my last video. If I die, I change roguelike. But I've been playing a lot of the Binding of Isaac lately, and I feel the similarities between those two games is going to help carry me through, especially because my skill in Binding of Isaac has gone up significantly. But while we're fighting the boss, I want to explain one of the rules of this challenge. Any type of item or ability that gives you a shield will not count as damage. You have to lose base HP in order for it to count as a loss. And if you're enjoying the video so far, be sure to hit that thumbs up button or even subscribe. And now it's time to move on to level 2. We're making significant progress. We're already doing way better than we did back on game 1, which also includes us having a new and better weapon. And by the way, if you guys enjoy roguelike content, I am streaming roguelike content over on Twitch. Well, that's something. Oh crap, not this thing again, not this thing again. It ruined me on my last challenge. And now our overshield is gone too. I'm thinking we're kind of screwed right now. And now we're moving to the Binding of Isaac. And I'm extremely lucky right now because we have an immediate treasure room that's giving us improved tiers and an immediate upgrade. So I really think luck's on our side. And we got our whiz attack. Just look at the smug look of satisfaction on his face when he uses the whiz attack. What a lucky room setup. We could literally funnel them. Luck is on our side because that was easy. But we got no overshield, no added protection. I'm going to have to be super careful from this point on, as if I get hit once, it's all over. And we got God of War Ragnarok. And this is the game I finished the last challenge on. So this one could go very well for us since it's actually one of the roguelikes I'm really good at. And just like our previous challenge, I'm going to go with the spear build. Why? It's giving me the best opportunity to keep enemies away. If I don't want to take damage, I can't let enemies even have an opportunity to do it. What's the best way to keep them from having an opportunity to deal damage? Keep them as far away as possible. Not that the footage is helping with this. But I went immediately for the Chosen. As in our last challenge, it turned out that going for the upgrades from the Chosen later on was the best source of upgrade. However, I'm still not sure if this is the best move, as if we're trying not to take damage, we probably want to avoid or harder fight up until the point in which we are more strong and stable through upgrades. I mean, the truth with this challenge is I'm always one hit away from being moved to the next game. And in this case, the next game is League of Legends Swarm. And honestly, I think Seraphine is the best choice of character. Why? Because she has a lot of potential damage and she actually has a shield that she could use on command. That shield on command is going to be beneficial, especially if we can hit level 3 somewhat quickly. Once we hit level 3, it's going to be beneficial because anytime we think we're going to get hit, you pop the shield. And hopefully we can get a good power up. Even though this isn't our ideal power-up, it'll definitely help clear things faster. But we just will need to stop any damage from actually occurring. Now, we're getting an unfortunate round of rolls because we haven't got anything other than our autos to actually do damage. We could use our shield to get away, but we have no way of actually doing additional damage. Seraphine's ult would also be super useful for doing it, but we have to survive long enough to get there. But now we're into Spirit Fall, kind of like a Super Smash Brothers meets a roguelike game. Though I am questioning my choice if using the heavy weapon was really the best idea, as I think having fast attack speed with stun is going to be the way to go. Fortunately, in this game, enemies that aren't shielded take knockback damage, and if they're knocked back, they're not able to fight. So it really is working tremendously in my favor, which is really going to help protect us from damage if they can't actually attack or fight back. How lucky for me. How smart. What a good idea I had. Except now the enemies have overshields, which is rendering my previous strategy completely moot. Why? They don't take any knockback until you take it away. That knockback is the key to our success. And the next game is Noida, and I'm willing to bet you that I'm going to die to something stupid. And honestly, I'm worried from this point it's going to get worse, because I happen to be on a string of games that I have very little experience playing and I know very little about, which means the likelihood of me surviving any amount of time longer than maybe a minute or two is problematic. At least now that we're at Risk of Rain Returns, being a 2D game, our odds of survival are much higher than they were back on Risk of Rain 2 because of the multiple different angles that we could be attacked from. But I'm also very lucky. Why? Because we found the boss arena already, so it's a huge bonus. We're able to move on to the next level and probably not get stuck here for so long. Although I'm not super familiar with this boss archetype, I'm a little worried about my survival, but I figure I could use a kiting strategy. In fact, I found the next teleporter so early on the stage that it's actually Slay the Spire now. I'm very concerned about Slay the Spire because it's completely luck-based, as all deck builders are. And this is really based on the fact that one hand could be misdrawn and the entire run is lost. Now, our starting perk is that the first 3 enemy encounters each have 1 HP, which is really beneficial, especially if we milk it through going through challenge rooms instead. But this is still a circumstance of one bad hand and we're screwed. Oh, praise, that's such a good find. We now get 2 cards for every combat. But I'm also worried that it's a curse because we could put too many cards in our deck. As in deck building games, sometimes more cards is not better. And next we got the Rogue Prince of Persia. Probably a game in which we should just avoid combat and run through. But I feel that I am going to need upgrades which come through fighting, at least as far as I know. So this is an interesting game. I haven't played a ton of it, but it's very similar to what I've stated is my favorite roguelike, Dead Cells, probably because they have the same developer. But I could with confidence say that I think this is an underrated gem in the roguelike space. I'm a bit concerned on my run due to the lack of experience, but I also feel like my character does very little damage, which means any fight is an easy invitation to take damage. And now we're moving on to Dead Cells, the best roguelike on the market. And yet, I feel oddly confident about my odds on Dead Cells. It's the game I have the most experience with other than Hades, and I actually feel that the mechanics of the game work very well in my favor. You have a lot of room to move, and it has a very generous dodge. My goal is to find a good red-powered weapon, as well as an item that gives something such as freezing or any other status effect that'll stun enemies. Most enemies and even bosses will be affected by things such as stuns. So I'm hoping to take advantage of this mechanic to reduce the odds of getting hit. While it's unfortunate that so far I haven't found anything, both of my weapons are using brutality to power up, and both of them actually have quite a bit of range, which is really helpful in order for keeping me away from the enemies, giving me plenty of time to dodge, and reducing the odds in which I take damage. And just while we're at this section, I want to take a second to appreciate how good the Return to Castlevania DLC is in Dead Cells. This ascent is really worrying me. There are a lot of bats. The bats in this game remind me of the bats in Terraria. I fully believe that the bats in any of these games like Terraria and Dead Cells are a programming error that the developers said, screw it, we're keeping them in. They are a pain in the ass for the players, and we like it. We want to make our players suffer just a little bit. It's like they feed on our suffering. Dead Cells so far has been the furthest we've actually made it in any of these roguelikes. I got a new weapon, which is great, as it should do more stun, which, as I've mentioned earlier, is key for the game. But I still feel incredibly weak. I mean, if we look at my top stat, it only has +3 so far. That's embarrassing for this point in the game. And the truth is, as we get further, I'm gonna need more and more of my gaming skill, or more so, my gaming cunning. All of my cunning.
It's gonna take a portion of my cunning. No. All my cunning.
I'm terrified right now. There's too many enemies here. It's extremely troublesome. The amount of enemies is really making me nervous about getting hit. Really, my best chance right now is to isolate them and go for them one by one. And now that I've lost, I'm moving to a little more of an obscure title, but a very good title that I need to spend more time on, Barony. If I could get the first enemy without damage, I could replicate it throughout. Now I'm on a game called Warm Snow, and honestly, this game reminds me a lot of Hades. And comparisons to Hades within any roguelike is probably a good thing. Fortunately, unlike some of the other games that I've played so far, I actually have experience with this game. I've never beaten it, but it's not my first time playing either, so that's something. So my plan is to take advantage of the range mechanic, throw as many swords at people as possible. It's really the same strategy as I used in Ragnarok Valhalla. And so far the strategy is working great. The ranged attacks in Warm Snow do a ton of damage. I'm really able to avoid getting hit because I have enough room to dodge anything. But I am worried about facing this boss. The boss has a lot of big swing attacks, and because the swords get stuck in her, I can't necessarily go back to just using range.
You failed. I won't.
I think he's referring to me when he's talking about failing. But we've moved on to the original Hades. I feel the best strategy is going to be the shield. Think of it this way. We can literally negate and block damage, and we can keep enemies away with a ranged attack. It's the best strategy for every type of strategy you would even consider. Why should I use a bow that could only hit range damage when I could use the shield for range and the shield to block? 1000%, the shield was the right choice. I'm doing great with it for every single reason that I had in mind for why the shield was the best choice. I just love shields. Though something that concerns me is accidentally dashing or block charging onto a spike. But I'm a skilled gamer. I'm really good at gaming. There is no possible way that I would ever do something so boneheaded and stupid. Though, I mean, it does seem like the kind of stupid, boneheaded mistake that I would make. But I will say, I am doing quite well so far because I'm getting good upgrades. I'm doing very well. Yes, I've been saved a few times by the block, but there's nothing wrong with that. It's a perfectly valid mechanic that I'm taking advantage of. But as it's getting harder, I'm starting to notice that there's more traps on the arena. The traps on the arena do concern me. I just luckily dashed over this one, and I'm still worried about messing up and accidentally hitting a spike. And after I hit a spike like I predicted I will, we gotta move on to Hades 2. Now this time we don't have a block damage button, which sucks. But we have more range damage options, so playing Hades Keep Away is entirely possible. However, thankfully, I don't think I'm gonna make a stupid mistake like dashing onto a spike. No, instead of dashing onto a spike, I just walked into an enemy. So now we're playing Death Must Die, the second Swarm game that we're playing in this challenge. Except the truth is, I only ever played this game once before, and I'm not very good at Swarm type roguelikes. So what's my strategy? It's gonna be very similar to a League of Legends Swarm strategy. Find as many ways to kill as many things as possible, and really just try to avoid as much damage as possible.
Well, duh.
So far, that strategy is quite good. My upgrades are giving me a lot of area effect, And the dash is quite generous at being able to move away from enemies or from attacks. Albeit, we have to be completely fair. So far, all we've got are skeletons that just walk at you. How hard is to dodge? Even these fireballs, you have more than enough time to move away before they come and hit you. As I continue to level up, I'm getting more damage, which is really nice. That damage is going to help if we get anything bigger, or we're able to get through the swarms quite a bit faster. Though I'm definitely noticing I need to find and get as much experience as I can. At some point, I'm worried about a boss or new enemy type, and if I'm not picking up the experience points and leveling up, you're just gonna get outscaled very fast. It's a common occurrence in League Swarm, it's a common occurrence in Vampire Survivors, and I would bet you it's a common occurrence in this game. And it looks like here the first boss is coming, but I think I could take it. I'm gaining a lot of power, and I could dash a lot to escape from him. Or not, because my dash was on cooldown. So the final game is BlazBlue Entropy Effect. Now, I've been a little bit addicted to this game lately, and I think my odds of survival are going. And I obviously picked the range character because, hey, range will keep me away. That strategy has gone so well so far throughout this challenge that I have to try it again. We know it's likely the best idea, and I just keep fumbling on games that I don't have experience on. But I've beaten this game. I could do this. I could take no damage and power through. So far, I'm still not even having any difficulty with surviving. But this worries me, having to survive in a small room without taking damage and eliminate a certain number of targets. Because I've been performing better in this game when I have a large amount of space to dodge on. Right now, I don't have it. My odds are quite low.